In a world that never stops talking, there is a quiet brilliance in the person who has learned to sit in a room alone without feeling the need to escape. Most people mistake the absence of noise for a void that needs to be filled, but the most transformative shifts in human history didn't happen in crowded rooms or loud celebrations. They happened in the stillness of a midnight study, in the focused silence of a workshop, and in the deliberate isolation of a mind that decided to stop seeking external validation. This is not a story about being lonely. It is a story about the profound difference between being isolated by the world and being insulated by your own purpose. When you finally stop running from the quiet, you start hearing the things that actually matter. The pressure to constantly be connected has created a modern epidemic of distraction, where we are more reachable than ever, but more distant from ourselves. We scroll through endless feeds to feel like we belong to a community, yet that very act often leaves us feeling more hollow than before. True solitude is a discipline that allows you to rebuild your internal compass away from the influence of public opinion. It is the practice of becoming your own best company, where your thoughts are no longer filtered through the expectations of others. When you master this, you no longer look for people to complete you. Instead, you look for people to share your completeness with. There is a biological and psychological necessity for periods of withdrawal that modern society often overlooks. Our brains require downtime to process complex emotions and to spark the kind of creative problem-solving that leads to genuine breakthroughs. When we are constantly surrounded by the energy of others, we are essentially living in a state of reactive consciousness. We react to their moods, their questions, and their demands on our time. By choosing to be alone, you reclaim your agency and move from a state of reaction to a state of creation. This shift is where your true potential begins to breathe, free from the suffocating weight of social performance. Consider the legends of industry, the master craftsmen, and the visionary thinkers who shaped our understanding of the universe. Almost all of them shared a common trait, a deep, almost sacred respect for their solitary hours. They understood that the crowd can give you applause, but only the silence can give you genius. In those moments when the phone is face down and the door is closed, you aren't just passing time. You are forging a version of yourself that is resilient enough to handle any storm. The strength you build when no one is watching is the very same strength that makes the world take notice when you finally step back into the light. The fear of being alone often stems from a fear of what we might discover when the distractions are stripped away. We use the noise of the world as a shield to protect us from our own unresolved questions and hidden ambitions. However, the healing process begins exactly where the discomfort starts. By leaning into the stillness, you give yourself permission to audit your life without bias. You start to see which parts of your identity were built by you and which parts were merely projected onto you by your environment. This clarity is the ultimate form of self-mastery, providing a foundation that no amount of social influence can ever shake. When you look at the architecture of a successful life, you realize that the most durable structures are built on a bedrock of self-reliance. If your happiness is entirely dependent on the presence and approval of others, you have essentially handed the keys to your well-being to a crowd that is notoriously fickle. Learning to thrive in solitude is like installing an internal power grid. You are no longer reliant on the external world to keep your lights on. This independence makes you a more attractive friend, a more stable partner, and a more formidable professional because you bring a sense of peace into every room you enter, rather than searching for it. The transition from seeking company to embracing solitude is often marked by a significant increase in productivity and mental clarity. Without the constant chatter of peer comparison, your goals become sharper and your path becomes more direct. You begin to notice the nuances of your own craft that were previously drowned out by the roar of the mainstream. This deep work, as it is often called, is the currency of the modern era. While everyone else is busy trying to be seen, the person who is busy becoming better in private is the one who eventually ends up leading the way. It is important to recognize that choosing to spend time alone is an act of self-respect, not a sign of social failure. It is a declaration that your own time is valuable enough to be spent on yourself. This boundary setting is essential for long-term mental health, as it prevents the burnout that comes from overextending your emotional resources. When you treat your solitude as a luxury rather than a punishment, the world starts to treat your presence as a privilege. You become more selective, more intentional, and ultimately more impactful in everything you choose to do.
Redefining your relationship with the quiet allows you to tap into a level of empathy and understanding that is impossible to reach in a state of constant social noise. When you understand your own inner workings, you become much more attuned to the experiences of those around you. You stop judging and start observing, which leads to deeper and more meaningful connections when you do decide to engage with society. This paradox is one of life's greatest truths. The better you are at being alone, the better you become at being with others. Your relationships shift from being fueled by necessity to being fueled by genuine appreciation. The ultimate goal of this journey is to reach a place where your internal environment is so stable that external circumstances cannot easily disrupt it. Whether you are in a crowded city or a quiet room, that sense of belonging to yourself remains constant. This is the ultimate form of freedom. It means you are no longer a prisoner of your surroundings or a slave to the whims of the people around you. You have created a sanctuary within your own mind, a place where you can always return to find balance, inspiration, and the quiet strength needed to face the world on your own terms. As you move forward, try to view every moment of solitude as an opportunity for an upgrade. Instead of reaching for your phone the moment there is a lull in the day, try reaching for a thought or a reflection. Observe the world around you with the eyes of a student rather than a consumer. Notice the patterns, the colors, and the rhythms of life that are usually hidden behind the screen. This heightened awareness is a superpower in an age of shortened attention spans. It allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles and to find beauty where others see boredom. The most successful people in the world are often the ones who are the most comfortable in their own skin, and that comfort is always hard-earned in the trenches of solitude. It comes from facing your flaws, celebrating your small wins, and planning your next moves without needing a cheering section. When you finally stop fearing the empty chair next to you, you realize that it isn't empty at all. It is filled with the potential of everything you are about to become. The story of your life isn't written in the loud moments that everyone sees, but in the quiet ones that you choose to honor. True healing occurs when you stop viewing your own company as a consolation prize. It is the moment you realize that the person you have been waiting for to save you or to validate you has been looking back at you in the mirror all along. This realization brings a profound sense of relief. The search is over and the real work can finally begin. You are the architect of your own joy, and the blueprints are only visible in the light of focused, intentional solitude. Embrace the quiet, trust the process, and watch as your life transforms from a series of reactions into a masterpiece of your own design.